they're going to be on.
Good evening, ladies and
You're
gentlemen.
on.
It is IDAGIO Live. It is Thursday. It must be Conversations with Thomas. One of my favorite shows to do, and I look forward to this every week because I get to visit, and I've told you this before, I know, with colleagues and friends, and sometimes new colleagues that I've never met before, administrators, everybody from the ecosystem in classical music. But once in a while, the conversation is kind of like we actually started it at the beginning, was me calling up somebody I haven't seen for a while that I know really well and saying, hey, how the hell are you? And so tonight I've called up Michael Schade. We've known each other for years. We have been on stage more often than a lot of our younger colleagues have ever been on stage. And how the hell are you, Michael?
Hello, Tom. It's nice to see you. It's
It's
really great
great
to
to
see you,
see you.
Thomas.
And we're gonna just walk through the show is not This Is Your Life, but since you might be talking to, I mean, we're in the idanjocom world, which is, this huge streaming database of all these recordings, and classical music loaded up by classical musicians and a user interface curated by classical musicians. It really is the streaming platform to go for classical music, and so your discography is extremely extensive, and we'll have a look at that. I'll do some screen sharing later and show everybody when they go into idagio.com what they can find. Idanjo.com, ladies and gentlemen, streaming platform for your iPhone, your Android, your computer, your iPad. Whatever you do in one place immediately translates to the other place. It's a music library in your pocket. It's a direct connection to all the music and artists that you've ever wanted to be connected to. And we've only just begun. The Idagio Live series launched a little bit ahead of schedule because of COVID. And I can't help but say it is astoundingly depressing to me. I'm sorry to start off the evening with this. I cannot believe that we are a year into this and we're still in COVID. I just can't. I would have never, ever taken that bet this time last year. And it was exactly 1 year ago that I started doing these conversations on Thursday, and on Tuesdays talk with people about song. And the idea was to bring artists and music and public closer together in a world, a digital, obviously, awareness, in a time where we couldn't be with one another. As we started to open up in the summer, we also started to open up in the summer. Now we clamp back down, and of course we all know that we're still in the middle of COVID crisis. So enough of a preamble. We did start the Global Concert Hall in June, which is an extraordinarily exciting development of online digital analog production. It really is a wonderful series. It is with the opportunity for our public to directly relate to the artist and participate in the production, as it were, pay a ticket, a very modest price. Digital green room afterward, whatever you see online, you get to visit with and send in your questions immediately. So it's been a big hit. A lot of organizations, LSO, New World Symphony, LPO, Vienna Philharmonic, a lot of big ones. Yo-Yo Ma's been on there. I think, I was on with Hazelbook. I think something you did has already been on there, but I think you're looking for, maybe we'll talk about Melk getting on there as well. But I
Right?
don't think, it's not about digital replacing analog. And what I mean analog, I mean people sitting next to people. I think moving forward, and I'll ask you this as well, Michael. I think moving forward in our possibilities post COVID, I think the digital awareness is going to accompany and accentuate, augment the world that we've known. Right off the bat, does that sound sensible to you?
It does sound sensible to me, Tom. I do believe that I think the biggest thing to concentrate on right now is the fact that we're just about through this pandemic, and that does not mean it's right near, but it's not that far away. If you compare
Right.
it to a marathon, in the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
we're at the stage now where we're running this race, and at least we can see the stadium. But probably they're going to make us do 6, 7, 8 loops before we even get into the stadium. And then once you're in the stadium, at the end of the Olympics, as you very well know, I think they have to run around at least 2 or 8 times. So there's a lot of running left to do and a lot of worrying. And the biggest thing that I can say to people, and it struck me as you said it, I can't believe we're still doing this a year later, or still talking about this a year later. The really important thing is that we're still here. And yes,
True.
indeed, I think we have learned a tremendous amount about what our kids, certainly my 14-year-old and our 20-year-old, 20-year-olds all know, which is that this great vast world of being connected, and social media is not all bad. It's not
Right.
just grab the phone, please put it Obama style into a basket so we can talk. All of that is good, but it is actually a vast world of opportunity. And no, it will never ever replace live
No.
performance. But I
No.
was applauding because your
And
wonderful internet platform also does live concerts, and these are just amazing things and interactions with people.
let's go backwards, Michael. I mean, you're so well known, but maybe people don't know where you came from. Where did you go to school? Did you get raised? I know your parents were extremely musical, extremely supportive. God rest them. I was very fortunate to meet your folks in Salzburg a couple of times. But give me a 3 minute, 5 minute Wikipedia, kind of everything up to you becoming Michael Schade.
Lodi, I think what you can say about my life, it's been rather global, which is very nice. I was born in Geneva, Switzerland, of German parents.
I didn't know that.
And yes, I was born in Geneva, Switzerland, of German parents. My dad worked for Union Carbide at the time. And I have wonderful pictures of my parents, and it was 59 to 1970. And, it was the early, it was during the Kennedy days. So there's great pictures of my parents sailing on a mahogany wooden boat, which sounds really glam, but they were just, young people. There was, I think, 12 families sharing this boat. And my dad and mom had met also early, and they had gone to
Yeah.
sailing schools around Denmark and I don't know what all. Very romantic. I have all that letters. It's just gorgeous. And then I moved back to Germany because my father got a job with a Canadian company running the European market for Inco. And Inco is the biggest nickel producer in the world, which you need for stainless steel and so on, and also for chrome on cars and your of course your steel and sinks and whatever else there is.
Right.
Even catalytic converters and taking salt out of the sea and making it drinking water, all that kind of stuff. You all need that stuff. You need nickel for it. But anyway, eventually my dad got sort of into the big leagues of business, and he was transferred to Toronto because, again, it's a Canadian company. The biggest nickel mine in the world is in Sudbury, Ontario. And there we were. And that's where, as kids, the question came up, where will we go to school? And I went to this wonderful Schola Cantorum, a choir school named St. Michael's Choir School in Toronto. And there between the age of 12 and when later the voice changed, all the way to graduating, we sang Palestrina, Bird, Schütz. We sang everything that you can possibly imagine Britain, and had this wonderful time. And we all did it like other kids do sports in school. We just did it. So then I had no clue ever that I thought I would become. I was good enough to get on all the tours. I was good enough to sing solos in church, but to do this I thought you'd have to have a voice like Domingo or like Pavarotti
Right.
to be able to make a living. And it never even entered into my head until the day that we did a wonderful opera at the cathedral for the centenary of Toronto with Kenneth Montgomery, whom I'm still friends with, the Irish conductor, and we did La Representazione di Anima di Corpore by Cavalli, a wonderful Baroque opera. And I got to sing one of the three voices in the off, and we boys got to bow at the end, and all these wonderful opera singers were bowing, but of course we got a ton of applause, and it's the first time in my life that I remember thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to do this for a living? But off I went, and I went to study sciences, wanted to be a veterinarian at the University of Western Ontario. And there, after 1 year of study, I decided to keep singing for fun, and met several of my friends who'd studied music education and even some performance. And that's the first time I ever met anybody who wanted to be an opera singer. And I got a
So how old are
scholarship
you? How old are you about now?
that paid more money than. How old am I now?
No.
I'm
How old are you
56, so
when?
this is
No,
a
no, no,
few
no, no, no,
moons
no.
ago.
No. How old were you when
Oh,
that was happening?
I was at that point, I was 20.
Okay.
I was 20, and I had sung all my life, and I never knew. And then it all really snowballed very quickly. By the time I was 23, I had done my operatic debut. And I did then my master's at the Curtis Institute of Music, studied in New York. won the
Ah,
New York Oratorio competition, met my first manager when my first international manager when I did a master class at Curtis, cracked the first note on my birthday and thought, well, hell, I'd never ever cracked that note. It was just bizarre. And I thought, oh, well, this is going to be fun. So I just sang and just had a lovely time. And at the end of that, Betsy Critton said, I need you to come to New York. I'd like to work for you. And I thought she was joking. And these are the days that big, high Columbia artists power,
oh
and
yeah.
they got me
I
into
started
Europe.
there as well. I started there as
So,
well.
and
Sam Neufeld.
so that sort of it all sort of started, and then there was big conductors that got me going, and the Wiener Staatsoper an overnight audition where I jumped in overnight, and that was 29 years ago, and I'm still here.
Wow, that soon you got to Vienna to audition.
I got there 92. Yeah, yeah. I was
Wow.
26 at this point. Yeah,
Oh my God.
it was very fun. But the
The
Baroque side of me always works as well, so I always did both.
So what happened to veterinary medicine?
I'm a failed veterinarian, Tom. It all stayed with with books about James Herriot books. That's my fantasy. And we have a dog, and I've had tons of birds, and that we've kept here. And
Do you
but
have a favorite
now it's
animal?
just the dog. Do I have a favorite animal? It probably is the parakeet because they're very
Seriously.
much like me. I love all parrots and parakeets because they're so fun and intelligent. And of course, we have a dog, and Bella is really a nice dog. So dogs are great too. I don't
Why
like
was that?
cats.
But you live in Vienna now, right?
We live in Vienna.
And you have a house, and you have more children than you have dogs. How many kids do
Well,
you have at
well,
home now?
at home we only have one because we're yes, this is Eva Stella. She's at home and she's going here to the Schotten Gymnasium. Next year she's going to the High School of the Vienna Choir Boys. So it's a very exciting
Wow.
time. Yeah, and then all the other kids are in Canada, and we did have a house until COVID hit in Canada, and I was supposed to do 12 performances of The Flying Dutchman for Alexander Neef at the Canadian
Yeah.
Opera Company. I just done it at the Hamburg State Opera, and it was a wonderful time and a wonderful success in a brand new role. And I, I was really looking forward to it. And then I did talk about internet and talking about how the world is different. We just decided that it was time, and we sold the house, and um, we did a move over the internet with our kids, going by iPhone, saying, "Dad, this chair, do we put it in the?" Say, okay, and then we just literally went through every box, and I paid the kids. I paid three of our kids, and they did the move for us, and then the movers came and they went through it all. It was completely crazy. So what we did then is we took our favorite things over to our place in Vienna that we've loved for years, and we said, "Oh well, just store the rest, and then we'll see what we'll do. What we'll do. Will it be some nice, place by the lake, or will it be by the ocean in Nova Scotia? What the heck will we do?" And all we're doing is waiting for Godot because we just have all of our stuff in storage. We took our favorite things from Canada, we put them in this house, took our stuff that we like here and put it in storage, thinking on verra, and there you are. So that's out of the personal life of Michael and Thea and my wife, and we have 8 kids together.
I
So
was
I
about
was
to. I don't. A
alone.
lot of people don't know it's 8 kids
8 kids, yeah. There's a
from
funny
from
picture,
top to
but there's
bottom.
oh yeah,
How
from
many?
top to bottom, 30 Laura, 28 Ellie, 25 Sophie, 24 Jane, 23 Thomas, 19 Nick and Libby, the twins, and Eva is 14.
Oh my
14
God.
going on 44.
Yeah. Hello. Exactly. I have an 11-year-old granddaughter who's buying high heels and watching Prada. You
Yes,
know.
yes, that sounds familiar.
So are you a grandfather?
We are the grandparents of 2 lovely little girls whom we miss more than anything. And that is the hardest part. Is the hardest part about COVID. We had a huge family wedding, and
Right.
everybody was here, and everybody had to leave overnight, like the world was ending. And guess what? It did. And so we have not been able to get back since then because
I haven't
of
either. I haven't
quarantine
been to the States
hotels.
at all.
And
Yeah.
isn't it crazy? And I think I've lost something like 9 transatlantic jobs and 9 transatlantic events, and it's all gone. But we're not here to talk sad. We're here to talk positive because we're still here
Well,
and
no,
we're
it's not.
alive.
Yeah, it is true, Michael, and I love your optimism. I love you. You're absolutely right. We're very alike in that. You know, you must go forward and never give up and all of that. But in fact, everybody's career, much less major careers, or what really breaks my heart is the starting careers of young colleagues. I mean, I know you're very involved in our young colleagues' lives and teaching and mentoring. But I wonder sometimes if our public, and especially now, we become so used to this COVID and we have our digital and whatever else. You know, what did you lose? 90% of your calendar in the last 12
Yeah,
months?
I've decided not to count. It's too depressing. But I
And
have I'm so not digital that I have a big black book with it's a 10-year calendar, and all I see is lines, and I always keep it I write it in pencil so I can change it, but all I see is lines. Oh, this didn't work. This didn't work. This didn't work. This,
now,
yeah,
is a lot of this stuff being just pushed? I would say, yeah, 90% went bye bye. I would say 50% of that has been pushed and pushed again. You know, you get up in the morning and you plan, and then you get up the next morning and replan, and you hope and whatever else. But has it been mostly just cancellations, dead in the water, or just shoved on like a bulldozer into the future?
I do sometimes I think uh, the COVID era is it thing didn't take place in 2020. So I finally do get to make my Australian debut, and it even got extended. So I was supposed to do the Tote Stadt in Australia in the summer, and now I'm doing the Tote Stadt plus a series of concerts with
Hmm.
the Sydney Symphony. So that's a wonderful thing. But I do think that about 50% of the things, particularly in North America, and in particular in the concert world, also in the Canadian concert world, are canceled for now. With just every time you get a cancellation, say we hope we can do this. We're thinking of you, and as soon as we can say something, and then already in the very early parts, I got. For those faraway things that they were planning, you got cancellations for those because they would say things like, well, now that the season's been canceled, we have to move forward
Yeah,
our artists for the
yeah,
next year. So it sort of becomes
yeah,
a domino effect of things.
yeah.
But I tell
Well,
you what I did. If
what?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Thomas, but
No, no, no. Come on.
I hate to sound snobby, and I'm really not. But what I sort of had the attitude was
No, you're
I've
not.
never worked harder actually, and I've never tried harder. And what I have done is I've been very blessed to be able to do a lot of film in Austria, because the ORF3 and Dreisat have been very supportive. So I did a wonderful project with the Winterreise, where I was hiking through the mountains of Salzburg in Mittersill, and it was just a fabulous time. And I was able to do a documentary film for the 5th anniversary of Nicholas Hanokor's death, who's a mentor to both of us, obviously. Weren't we part of that famous Don Giovanni production with a certain Anya Netrebko? Remember back then, she was Anya. She was like, she had a J in the name. She wasn't Anna. And wonderful. And you, of course, were Don Giovanni, and I was Ottavio. But the point is, I got to do a film about that. But you were talking about the young people, and you're right, they're really suffering. And so I decided that what you'd go back to is just the good old house concert. So I started a thing called the Musik Salon, and it
Yeah, I want to
is,
ask you about.
what it is a wonderful opportunity where we got young people to make music with really, uh, you know, uh, older people and people that have been around a long time, and where the kids
Yeah,
can learn by osmosis and just really share the experience of actually performing. And these concerts, we had 4 of them planned. Only one was completely canceled. The other two we did live, and another one was then filmed for television. And I feel very, very proud of that, because we really help kids, and to prepare that stuff is it's been super. I've had a Liederabend with a great Austrian um, actor who is supposed to say poetry in between called Karl Markowitz, who's a very, very famous guy. And we've had that lead album postponed twice. It's now going to be in September. And one of my projects has been to do sort of uh, to just keep practicing it so that when the day comes that it's finally there, things will get eventually sort of stuffed into the fall. I just keep ready and I keep singing and I haven't given up. And I spend most of the days, including today, on the phone trying to come up with new projects, calling friends, because I feel it is my responsibility as somebody who's been around a long time and who does get asked, that if I get my foot in the door, I'm going to keep my foot in that door as long as I can, and I'm going to pry that door open as wide as I can so that I can invite other people behind me, particularly the young people.
Well done. I mean, I'm doing exactly the same thing in the Schubert Week in Berlin. We sang over 160 individual Schubert songs, and we had 11 concerts, and 9 of them sung by people under the age of 30. I was the exception. But it's so important. It is fantastic. You carry
Wow.
you have a lot of hats. Our connection isn't great, ladies and gentlemen, tonight for some reason. I was just checking
No,
earlier.
it's
I think we got a little
yes.
bit of a lag, but if everybody stays patient, we'll try not to interrupt one another. You are wearing a lot of hats right now. I wanted to ask you about the Salon and how that was. Where do you do the Salon, and how many people sing in a concert?
It depends a little bit. I mean, we've done one program where we had letters of Schumann and Clara Wieck read, and that sort of love triangle between Brahms and Clara Schumann and Robert Schumann. So we had an actress there and young, and the evenings range anywhere from 2 to 6 or 8 people.
Fantastic. And where?
So we did those in all over Lower Austria. So the latest one we did one at Christmas that was televised. So there was in the Abbey of Dunstein, which is just a beautiful place.
Fantastic.
All those people that take those cruises along the Danube, they will know Dunstein, and they will know, of course, Melk. And we did one in Vienna. We did one in a place called Bad Schönau. I mean, these are all around Vienna. And I don't care if we do it in our living room. It is just a time to get people together. I did a few at our church here, a wonderful in the district.
Right. You have a little bit of a lag here. You mentioned Melk. Tell me about Melk. When did you become the artistic director of the Barocktage? And how you had a couple of good seasons, and then the COVID hit and all of that. But I mean, this is a very big deal. How did that come about? It's a beautiful project.
I think there was a lot of people knew that I was very close to the Hancock family, and very few knew my background in Baroque music, but I've done a lot. I mean, I've done a lot with John L.A. Gardner and Roger Norrington and
Right.
Trevor Pinnock and all those wonderful Neville Mariner, and you name it, and it was something that I've grown up with. Kenneth Montgomery, as I mentioned before, but it was a time that suddenly there was a reshuffling at the Internationale Barocktage Stift Melk. So this is the International Baroque Days that always take place at Whitsun or Pentecost. So it's always, in essence, 6 weeks after Easter, normally in mid-May or early June, depends on when Easter falls. And it is a festival that's been around 40 years, and I'm actually in my now 7th year of running it as artistic director. And I've been extended twice, which I'm very happy with. And so the next contract is now all the way to 2027. And it's a very exciting thing, and we've grown tremendously.
How big is it? How many concerts over what time period?
It's always over. It's the same weekend that Cecilia Bartoli has her Pentecost festival at the Salzburg Festival.
Ah,
And and she does, I think, two or three opera performances and a couple recitals, and we do 14 different performances over that weekend, and we have 6,000 people that come, and it's a marathon that is glorious and wonderful, and we have all kinds of wonderful concepts, and it's.
Do you sing as well as produce it?
I do sing. I thought that at the beginning that I would not sing because I didn't want it to look like the festival that I was creating in order to sing. But we got a lot of notes where people said, and it's been rather nice because when I do sing, it does also, it does help the box office. But we're incredibly lucky. I mean, we did have the last few years until COVID had it's a hot festival. It's a great festival. This year we have Giardino Harmonico coming. We have the wonderful, incredible Pablo Harris Casado coming to do the Vespro della Beata Vergine by Monteverdi.
With concertos or with Giardino?
With concertos. And actually, this is the big point, that part of the reason all of this came about is because I was having conversations with Nicholas Hanukuri the last few years of his life, saying, Nicholas, what's going to happen with this consentus, because this Austrian jewel of culture, it was his for over 50 years, and I noticed that the situation was a bit like the farmer who has kids, and all the kids sort of get together and say, Dad, no, he gathers the kids and says, what are we going to do with the farm? And the kids all say, Dad, please, we love each other, we love you. Do not even spend a moment thinking about this. We'll handle this when you're gone. And until that, may you live another 1,000 years. And there was sort of many attempts by Hanukuri to talk to his orchestra about it. And it sort of went. And the worry was that when he would no longer conduct or eventually pass away, that then the whole thing would sort of crumble into nothingness. And so the Melk Festival also was and has been a place where we had them as orchestra in residence, even while Nicky was still alive, where they could try out other conductors, which was a very, very difficult suggestion because nobody had ever done it. So it's been a really, really incredible time.
Do they have a quasi-music director now?
They do, but they are still open also to work with others. So they have Stefan Gottfried, who's the wonderful cembalist and a wonderful conductor who does their regular series at the Musikverein. But they are also doing work with people like Pablo Harris Casado, who then will conduct the orchestra as they do a brand new production of
Pablo
Popea at the Wiener Staatsoper. So it's an exciting.
Oops, we got you frozen. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. We've got a funky internet connection tonight for some reason. And actually, our guy behind the scenes wrote me a message that he's actually it's not our fault. It's in the connectivity, but we just keep on going, ladies and gentlemen. I've been assured that you can see each of us, and if we just take our turns talking, it's fine. The Concertus Musicus in the pit. I think it was the first time they did that with Nicholas back in the day. But weren't they in the pit for the Le Nozze di Figaro that just happened last fall?
Yes, the Theater der Wien, but it was all at the Theater der Wien. But we're talking about the fact that now, the consensus has gone from what is going to happen to the orchestra to being really in high demand, and to actually moving to the Vienna State Opera, which is a very big deal. And it was actually an idea that Nicholas had all those moons ago, and it's a nice.
I didn't quite get all of that. I don't know if everybody else got all that. You broke off. It was an idea that Nicholas had for what?
To have the concertos play in the pit of the Vienna State Opera was very much one of his dreams that never came to fruition, because it is actually the home of the Vienna Philharmonics.
Right.
You know?
Wow. So, my goodness, what other hat do you have on? What is this? What is this? What is the Stella Maris vocal competition? Tell us about that.
Well, Tom, that was a wonderful competition that also, unfortunately, has died with COVID
Ah,
because obviously there's no more cruise ships sailing the world, and they're suffering just tremendously. But what it
awful.
was something I did for 11 years, and we invited the great ensembles of the world. So the Metropolitan for young singers, Metropolitan Opera, La Scala. We had Covent Garden, we had San Francisco Lyric Opera, and so on, the Paris Opera, and they would each send us one of their young singers, and I would get the jury together. And besides the fact that there was a prize for 15,000 euros, there was a huge amount of opportunity for the kids because I would invite people like Dominique Meyer of the Wiener Staatsoper. I would invite Simone Young of the Hamburg State Opera, or Martin Engström, of the Verbier Festival. And Deutsche Grammophon was always there. So these kids got 10 days to sing in 3 rounds for some of the most important people, and everybody
Wow.
basically got jobs.
Wow.
And a
And it
lot
was
of people
on the
have
boat.
gone
On the
a
boat.
long way since then. He was on the boat, and we cruised the world uh, anywhere from Spitsbergen all the way down to Madagascar. It was ridiculously beautiful, and it was one of the happiest times of my life. And I did that every year. And I used to have to say things like, "I'm sorry, I can't do these 2 weeks of the performances." Then the opera directors would say, "Well, why not?" I said, "I have to go on a cruise."
Oh my God, how fun is that? And do you think it'll come back when COVID relaxes?
It's one of those many things that I hope that does come back. And if not, I will certainly try to do something else for young singers. Absolutely.
Am I seeing am I seeing that you said this already, the Barocktagen will are postponed to the fall. Is that correct?
They are,
I had a conversation with Pablo, and he was saying that he's actually doing a lot of work with the Concentus Musicus. He's made some marvelous records
yes,
with the Freiburger Baroque group. I've worked with him a couple of times. He's a wonderful musician and conductor,
he's an
but
amazing guy.
he seems to have a real relationship now with Concentus. Is that true?
Yes, it was something because he had come to conduct the Monteverdi Selva e Morale, which is wonderful motets, and they all gone on like a house on fire. And we've had people like Daniel Harding doing Messiah, and it's a really fantastic place to meet. And this abbey in Melk is one of the great world cultural heritage sites, and it's literally one of those places that is so beautiful that even if you have a heart of stone, you or a soul
It's
of
true.
stone, you tend to leave that
It's true.
place as a better person
Right.
than when you arrived. It's just the faith and the beauty and the willingness to actually live and work for the
It's
arts
true.
there is just in every corner, in every plant, in every song, in every detail of and those of us who really know these Benedictine monks, they're actually super cool, super modern, and super inclusive, and it's just a great, great, great place.
I
So
have the f-
it
I
is
have the
basically.
I have the feeling that Niederösterreich and Wachau uh, specifically are enormously dedicated to the arts.
The whole province of so it's Austria, like many countries in the world, is divided into many states or provinces, whatever you want to call them. And so the so-called state of Lower Austria, Niederösterreich, it really is. It started with the previous Landeshauptmann, so the head of the premier of the of
Right.
the of the county of the state. He really set a lot of things up. I mean, we haven't even begun to talk about the of Austria, which is the Great Grafeneck Festival,
Yeah.
run by Rudy Buchbinder, and that is really the flagship of that. And there's a very simple reason for it. Um, Whatever money these governments put into the arts, they get back threefold through hotel bookings, people going to buy restaurants, people buying anything from the little Mozart kugel and the little Mozart statue or the umbrella from the festival. It all adds up to the fact that
It's true.
actually the government makes money and doesn't lose money with the arts. It's a faux idea that the governments lose money with the arts. I mean, if you think about the Dallas Cowboys or the Toronto Maple Leafs, the real money isn't made by the tickets that people buy, but all the the endorsements and
The merchandising
and the jerseys and the merchandising, and it's all part of it. And I see it as a very rosy, wonderful thing.
Rosy, wonderful thing. Well, I mean, that is, looking at America, that's what is so dumbfounding about this crisis and all of these huge dollar packets to save the economy and all that. And very, very little has actually gone to an industry that brings $877 billion to the GDP of America. And it's just been relegated. Of course, the pay-for-play industry, meaning us, we get money when we do something. Presenters and agents, are also dying because they cannot produce, and if there's no ticket revenue and so forth and so on. Is there an answer to? Is there a better way to do what's not been done? Do you think? And I specifically, I'm not going to name names, but we have some really wonderful, important colleagues who are selling houses and moving out and literally destitute, because if they don't sing, they don't get paid. The presenter, the opera house may get some sort of help or something, but I mean, it's pretty destitute. Do you think there's a better way that we could have done all this?
I think the better way was shown in Spain, one of the hardest hit countries of the world in terms of COVID infections, and they kept their arts open. They kept social. Well, they just had people put on masks. They did social distancing, and it is just a farce to think that people in the audience are going to get infected either from the stage or from each other. You can ride a plane, you can ride a bus, and generally things don't have their over all this time, either at the Real in Madrid, nor at the Liceo in Barcelona. There's also been a time that the Vienna State Opera was open. I think that the reason that the houses are basically closed at the moment is because of two reasons. One is the fact that you don't want people to gather outside or to gather in groups before they go in, or the problem is, how do you make people go through narrow hallways and so on. I think that's but I think mostly they just don't want people to gather, go to restaurants, you get cozy and have a good time. They want people to stay home. And look, all of us get that. And when the numbers are too high, you cannot satisfy the safety. I mean, we had to just do that now, even though there is a spring feeling to the COVID situation. 25% of Austrians have at least received one injection. America is wonderful. It's sort of went being last of the class to top of the class. I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I do believe in government support for the arts, just because I know that the math works.
Right.
And the problem with a lot of North American houses is the fact that the math is set up that there's a very big sponsor. There's a certain amount of tickets that they promise to sell, that they have to sell, and that makes them survive deficits year after year. But the problem is that when you cannot sell house at all, the math is broken, and the sponsors cannot necessarily help enough, whereas government could kick in. And there's been a lot of complaining here, also in this land of culture, that they actually didn't do enough to save the arts. So that some of the houses are being saved, and the people at the house are being given money, but they're actually not playing when they should. Right. I mean, there is no right answer to this except for one answer, which is people need to wear the bloody mask and accept it. That's number one. And number two is people need to get immunized. And as soon as because we can now, as I said, see the stadium, and after that, things will be changed
Right.
and different for a long time. But at least there's a feeling of hope. And, my wife said to me, you have three jobs during COVID for me. You have three jobs: survive, survive, survive. And my heart breaks for all those colleagues we've lost. There's been some wonderful managers, some wonderful conductors, and they didn't do anything wrong. They weren't necessarily people that were COVID deniers. And
Right.
there's been a lot of even famous artists have said, come on, this is nothing. I've had this. It is a terrible thing, and it was right to close things down for a certain amount of time. But it's not right to close a house down for a year.
I agree.
In the second month it happens, and God knows what will happen in September, because that mathematical equation that North America needs is in dire straits. So
I had a conversation with a bunch of singers that I'm mentoring for the Heidelberg program and Berlin and all that, Schubert, and literally this time last year, maybe May of last year, I said, look, whatever you thought your life was going to be in December of 2019, it is not that. You simply have to pivot, you have to rethink,
right.
and you have to first and foremost survive. You have to stay healthy, and you have to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And as a musician, that's not music students or young professionals. That's a hard message, but you're absolutely right about it. And I think it's going to, even when we open back up, it's not going to be like it was. There are going to be less opportunities. There's going to be, I suppose, more competition, perhaps more Willkür will come into it all. But I think it is going to be what I'm convinced of is that our public is as anxious to get back to the live music as we are. That in the few concerts I had
Absolutely.
last summer, it was like singing to drug addicts. I don't mean that glibly. It was just everybody was just so focused on the music. So I think when we can start back up, I think it's going to be a quite glorious occasion. What does your summer look like? Your Barocktage are pushed to the fall. Are you busy in the festivals this summer?
You know what? After 23 years of writing, I think you and I know every bicycle path of the Salzburg area.
Yeah.
I have now decided that my summers are mine, and I decide to do, all those times that I used to as a young man think, how do they do that? And I remember Anne-Sophie von Otter saying to me, well, you just say no. And I was like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah, and I am taking July off, and
good.
I am then going to be recording something in the middle of July, and I'm going to be doing a wonderful big outdoor concert in Linz, and going to America hopefully, and
when can you see your kids?
Then to the Innsbruck present. That's what, this is the biggest question that Dee and I wake up to every day, and the fact is. We have two daughters, for instance, who are in Halifax. Beautiful. So Halifax is the Canadian version of Boston up north,
Right.
And it's just a gorgeous place. And the maritime provinces of Canada have pulled a bit of a New Zealand on the rest of the world. They have made this bubble, and you can't go in. So you have to quarantine a week when you arrive in Canada. No matter how many times. You still need to do 2 weeks just to get into the Maritimes. I don't have 4 weeks to just sit in hotel rooms. And so I'm probably not going to go to Canada until Canadian Thanksgiving, which is sometime in October,
Oh my God.
I miss them. It's just horrible. It's just horrible.
Tell me about hobbies. You're a gourmand and a gourmet. You are a wine sommelier. You are a golfer. You are what don't we know about Michael Schade?
That the fact that I'm a golfer, Thomas, is a very huge compliment. coming from you, because I've seen you golf very well, and you've seen me golf. Let's put it politely, not so well. Um,
I don't remember that.
what are my hobbies? You're right.
Uh,
Been really as of and I too. But I think that my wife in particular is such a good cook that she should and could run a restaurant, and so we do all those kinds of lovely trips to the markets and think about what we're going to eat, and we do love to cook, and Dia is phenomenal, and I'm not so bad. And yes, wine trips
Wine's your big deal, right?
are just one of my things. And well, I just really not only just enjoy to drink it. It's just the wine culture, the way that
Yeah.
wine is made, how it's made, what the topography is, and we try to do a lot of hiking in the summer. So we've been doing a little bit of that, a little bit of mountain climbing is a little strong. To bike, I like to ride my bike, and I like to ride my road bike. So and I still think that music is my hobby, and hang
There
out
you
with young
go.
people and fascinating them, and it's just it's weird. I'm more hungry for it, or just as hungry as when I was 23.
It's true, Michael. I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. And it is a hobby. I've always said I don't care whether it's 200 people or two people or 2,000 people. It's the music. That's what I want to do. I want to make that audible. I want to be in that thought.
You totally want to be that, and there is one hobby and one thing that it just fills my mind with, like, oh, I just can't wait. One of the things I truly love doing is fishing. I'm not
Seriously.
quite at that Paul Groves yeah, I love to fish, and I'm not at that Paul Groves level, but I would easily book a vacation, which we once did, for a week on the French River in Ontario, and go perch and pike.
Fly fishing?
My wife is a fly fisher. She does that really well, and always says I'm a bit of an idiot at it, because it takes skill.
Oh,
But I
it's
just
so difficult.
it's very, very difficult. And of course, she was once invited by a very prominent man in Salzburg, Gerhard Gössel, who makes those wonderful
Yeah.
clothing, and he has his own river, and it's like in Europe you can't just go fishing. You have to you have to own Salzburg, or you have to be like, because you have to essentially lease the land to go hunting or fishing on it. And he had this whole river, and he was showing her what she did. Nobody was catching anything, and Dee were like twice, like, and out came a trout like it was out of a Schubert song. It was so funny, and she did really well.
That's
So yeah, I love
fantastic.
to fish, and one of my dreams post COVID, and the other thing I really like doing, it's also a good thing I like doing it, because I do love to travel, is traveling, and in our job we used to get to travel a lot. So
Yeah.
one of my big dreams is to go to Iceland and go fishing, or to Ireland and that sort of thing.
Iceland is as in drill a hole in the ice and fish.
No, Iceland as in the wonderful fjords and stuff. My daughter always said, "Daddy, don't forget, Greenland is ice and Iceland is green. There's a lot more
Well,
green than you think."
I'm sure that must be
Salmon
true.
fishing.
I love. No,
That's a long time ago.
my dad always liked to
Now
fish,
she'd say, "Dad, Google it."
but Dad was being a Midwest boy. It was sort of line and bobber time, and for an 8-year-old boy to throw a line in the, I mean, it looks so Tom Sawyer, but I was just bored out of my mind. I mean, bored, and the only thing of significance I ever caught was a turtle. And
Yeah,
when
that's,
it
you
took
don't
me
want
it
to
took
catch
me
it.
half an hour to get him reeled in, and then it was a bloody turtle, which
And he
obviously
was
went back in
mad.
the water. Oh my goodness, he was really not happy, and I wasn't particularly happy. I caught a toilet seat once as well, in the pond, but I fishing was not exactly not my thing. Played a lot of golf. Well, that's very fun, and hiking. Of course,
Well,
we're here in Switzerland. We've been doing a lot of hiking, which is really wonderful.
yeah, yeah, it's a great place. I do
So
miss
what's up?
Canada, though, I have to say. I mean, we
I,
love it
I,
here.
I can imagine. So are you teaching? Are you teaching voice on Zoom?
I do teach voice on Zoom at times.
I find it
I'm
really
a
difficult.
professor for the it's yeah, that's why I'm sort of like ugh. I am a professor for historische Aufführungspraxis, so it means
Yeah.
historical performance practice. And what I've decided, because what most people just don't get, especially when they see all those, orchestras playing together and people singing happy birthday choruses, and those are all spliced together afterwards. The actual one-on-one in digital land doesn't exist. So you and I cannot sing the Bullfisher duet without embarrassing ourselves at all right now,
Right.
because we would never be together and we would get lost with each other, and it would just be a super frustrating experience, and people would probably think that you and I are severely drunk doing this. So
Just
when
old.
I when I teach when I teach no, we're not old. When I teach uh, I get my one of accompanists to get, we record the stuff for them, and then they have to play it on their iPhones or their
Right.
speakers,
Right.
into the so that it's live, so
Right.
that I can. But it is horrendously frustrating, as our connection has dropped way too many times, and I can only apologize for that. This also happens in lessons, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. During those times, we really had to just keep the door shut, and
Yeah.
I think it's important to I've had as well with that sort of found me through a tenor friend, Andrew Owens, and he came and he's been asking questions about, how can I study with you and how can I do this and what do you think, and it's been a wonderful mentoring thing that I'm now also doing with a student from Yale University, and I just think it's great. I mean, it makes me feel very, very happy, and teaching is something I love to do, and you know it's good to have that in these times. Absolutely.
Right. I think we
That,
cutting. I didn't quite get all that last. We cut out again. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I'm not sure exactly what gremlin is eating our internet connection, but
mm,
the gremlin is getting fatter, and we are getting less coherent. Michael, it is great to see you. When I get to Vienna, hopefully soon, I will knock on your door, and
you
you
have to
can
come to
feed
my
me.
wine cellar, Thomas. I
And you
know
can
you
feed
don't
me.
drink this stuff
No,
much.
never,
I'll feed
never,
you
never.
and I'll make you drink.
Anyway, give Dee a big
Please
hug
give
from
my love to
Andre and I as
Andrea, and
well.
we'll do.
Absolutely.
And to all the people out there listening, thank you for listening, and come see us live. We'll be around.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying in a very private conversation and having wonderful insights into where Mr. Michael Schade and his life is, and all of his kids, and only one dog. He should have more dogs, in my opinion, but never mind. And his parakeet. By the way, I had a parakeet in Los Angeles that I named Dieter after Fischer Dieskau.
No way.
It's
Mine,
true.
mine could sing the Queen of the Night, and I made him sing it, and he had to do a wobble at the end. So it was very, very funny.
That's very funny. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great